Okay, so we've got this situation with Ben Cleveland, the Baltimore Ravens lineman. Last Wednesday evening, he was arrested for driving under the influence. And it's certainly raising a lot of questions.
Yeah, it really is.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, the fact that his blood alcohol content was more than double the legal limit is, that right there is pretty serious.
Yeah.
0.178 at the scene and then 0.161 later at the jail.
And it gets even worse. Apparently, he was swerving so erratically that he almost drove his truck into a ditch.
Right.
It's just lucky that nobody was hurt.
Absolutely. I mean, driving with that level of impairment puts everyone on the road at risk. Really does. And it's just a stark reminder, I think, of the dangers of getting behind the wheel after drinking.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go any further, let me just remind everyone to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like if you're finding this information helpful. We appreciate your support. So Cleveland admitted to having 3 or 4 beers at a country club before driving. I mean, that right there, combined with his behavior, definitely didn't help his case.
No, it doesn't. And it brings us to a fascinating question. What does this mean for Cleveland's future with the Ravens?
Right.
He was drafted in the 3rd round back in 2021, has played in 54 games, starting in 7.
He's had some pretty impressive moments on the field, too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that crucial field goal block against the Washington Commanders in Week 6 of the 2024 season.
Oh, yeah.
The Ravens won that game 30-23, and that block was a huge factor.
Right. Real game changer. But now with Cleveland becoming an unrestricted free agent next month, this DUI incident throws a huge wrench into the equation. You know, teams have to weigh his talent against the potential PR hit and the message it sends to their fans.
Exactly. It's a tough spot for the Ravens. How do you think this incident will impact his market value? Will teams be hesitant to sign him, or will his talent outweigh the risk?
Well, it's tough to say for sure. On the one hand, he's a proven asset on the offensive line. Teams are always looking for reliable linemen.
Right.
And Cleveland has shown flashes of brilliance, but this incident raises serious concerns about his judgment off the field.
It makes you wonder about the psychology involved, too.
Right.
At a BAC of 0.178, could Cleveland even grasp the risk he was taking? That level of intoxication severely impairs decision-making.
Yeah, it's disturbing to think about. Studies have shown that even a BAC below the legal limit can significantly impact cognitive function and reaction time. At Cleveland's level, the impairment is dramatic.
So you're essentially saying that even if he thought he was fine to drive, his brain was telling him a very different story.
Precisely. And this raises a bigger question about the NFL's approach to DUI incidents. Is enough being done to educate players about the dangers of drunk driving? And are the consequences severe enough to deter this kind of behavior?
This incident could be a defining moment for Cleveland's career. It could also be a wake-up call for the league. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds.
It certainly will. We'll be watching closely to see how the Ravens handle this situation and what message it sends to other players and teams across the league. It's a complex issue, there's no doubt about that. You have to consider the league's personal conduct policy,
Right.
which outlines potential penalties for DUI violations. These can range from fines to suspensions, and in some cases, even banishment from the league.
But are those policies always consistently enforced? Is there a sense that some players might get lighter punishments than others?
Yeah.
Depending on their status or their team's influence?
That's a valid question, and it's one that fuels a lot of debate. There's always a risk of perceived inconsistencies in how these cases are handled. And then, of course, you have the added layer of public perception. Teams are under immense pressure to maintain a certain image.
Right.
And a DUI incident like this can tarnish that image pretty quickly.
So it's not just about Cleveland's individual actions.
Right.
It's about the Ravens' reputation and the message they send to their fan base. Do they prioritize winning at all costs, or do they hold their players to a higher standard of personal conduct?
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act. And then you have the broader implications for the NFL as a whole. This incident could spark a conversation about the league's overall approach to DUI and whether more needs to be done to address the issue.
It almost feels like a microcosm of a larger societal problem.
Yeah.
We see drunk driving incidents happening all the time, not just among athletes.
Yeah.
It begs the question, is enough being done to educate people about the dangers and to create a culture where this behavior is simply unacceptable?
It's a multifaceted issue for sure. You have education, law enforcement, and societal norms all playing a role. And when it comes to professional athletes, you have the added layer of their platform and influence. They have the power to set an example, both positive and negative.
So in a way, Cleveland's situation could be a turning point.
Yeah.
It could force the Ravens and the NFL as a whole to take a hard look in in the mirror and ask themselves, what kind of message do we want to send? What are our values? And what are the consequences for violating those values?
It's a pivotal moment, and it'll be fascinating to see how the league navigates the situation, both in terms of disciplinary action and in terms of the larger conversation it sparks about DUI and player conduct.
It's a story that goes far beyond the football field. It touches on issues of personal responsibility, public image, and the role of professional sports in shaping our cultural landscape.
It really does. This whole situation with Cleveland is a reminder that even talented individuals, those who seem to have it all, can make choices that jeopardize everything they've worked for.
It's a cautionary tale, there's no doubt. And it leaves us with some pretty thought-provoking questions. For instance, how much weight should a team give to off-field incidents like this
Right.
when making decisions about a player's future?
Yeah.
Is talent enough to outweigh concerns about character and judgment?
It's a complex question with no easy answers. Each situation is unique, and teams have to weigh a multitude of factors. They have to consider the severity of the incident, the player's past behavior, the potential impact on the team's image, and of course, the legal ramifications.
And what about the fans?
Right.
How much do they care about a player's off-field conduct, especially when it comes to something like DUI, which affects so many people? Do they hold their favorite players to a higher standard, or are they willing to overlook these incidents if the player performs well on the field?
That's a fascinating question. Fan opinions are often divided on these matters. Some believe that a player's personal life should remain separate from their professional career, while others hold the view that athletes have a responsibility to set a positive example both on and off the field.
It's a debate that's likely to continue, especially as we see more and more of these incidents play out in the public eye. This case with Cleveland just brings all those questions to the forefront.
It does, and it's a conversation worth having. It forces us to confront our own values and beliefs about the role of professional athletes in society, the responsibility they have to their fans and their teams, and the consequences they face when they make mistakes. Ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide where they stand on these issues.
Well said. This has been a really insightful look into a complex situation with some pretty far-reaching implications. Thanks for joining me today.
It's been my pleasure.